Welcome to the Power of Culture. I'm Mayassa bint Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani. My nation, Qatar, is on a creative journey, supporting the talents of a rising generation, reaching out to other countries through the arts and building an entire cultural infrastructure. In each episode of The Power of Culture, I'm joined by a leading artist or architect, philanthropist or museum professional who's part of Qatar's journey. Listen in as we discuss what the power of culture can do. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Qatari fashion designer, artist, and Deputy Director of Design Doha, Fahad Al Obaidly. Fahad, it's so nice to speak to you today. Over the years, I have seen you participate in various programs, from fashion to art to film, and more recently as a curator and entrepreneur of the Design Doha. Tell me about your childhood and what do you think led to such a creative path?
First, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this platform. My childhood, do you have the whole day to talk about my childhood? I would say because of the way I grew up with my mom, single mother, we had to move a lot to different cities for her to finish her school, or because of the situation as a single mom, she had to rely on the kindness and grace of her friends and family to survive and raise these 3 kids with her. Like I have 3 sisters and myself. So we grew up in a bit challenging, I would say, challenging environment, but at the same time, like that's actually what make me the person I am today. Like in terms of like, I call it the art of creating. Like I was exposed to my mom because, okay, society call it we were poor, but like for us, we were like making, like my mom, anything she needed in terms of like uniform, she had to make it in order to get it for us. She needed the curtain, she had to make it for herself in order to have it at home. So I was constantly exposed to this feminine or female powerful energy of creation or creating. And I don't think she called it creativity because she was doing fashion in terms of like making the clothes, and then or an artist or designer when she needed to make a table even sometimes. So she called it like the act of creating or the art of creating. So I was always exposed to that. And I think that contribute a lot to my diverse expression because I grew up in an environment that I had to create to have, basically.
So your mother was really an entrepreneur. She was able to make things because she had to. Situations forced her to do that. And that's really a compelling story to see where you started and where you are now, contributing very efficiently to the creative scene in Qatar. But you yourself, where did you study? Did you study in Qatar or where did you study?
Doha and Bayan in Kuwait and Colorado as well. And then I end up in Milano to do my fashion degree, where I was in the Marangoni Institution and basically and where basically I would say my hands-on experience started. Where because in Milan, it's not like in Italy in general, like if you are in Florence or Rome or any city you are there, like you have to be part of the making, like pattern making. You have to understand how to work with the garment, how to construct like a textile or a fabric. And like you had to start from there in order to call yourself a designer or you are in the fashion industry. They will take you seriously. So that's why I chose kind of like Milan, I would say, because actually I remember the first memory I saw the word Milan were in a fabric, like, you know, the tag in the fabric. My mom neighbor, she used to travel to Europe because her husband was an ambassador. And she was like really kind to bring a lot of fabrics from Europe to my mom because she was making like for her friends, like dresses for weddings or stuff like that. And I remember in the corner of my eye, I always see the fabric tags, and I always see Milan. And I was always in love with how depth and the craftsmanship and those fabrics and textile. So I think that was printed in my head as a word Milan. And then I think subconsciously, like I chose it. And I was really grateful I did that, even though it was a bit challenging for me because I have to work and study. I didn't have time to really study because I have to pay rent and to make living. But at the same time, it was the best experience ever. Like I had the option to work backstage, to really have to be in the selling floor of the stores or to be in the back and in the atelier. Even like sometimes you have to iron the fabrics for the designers or the pattern makers, stuff like that. So because I was part of the making, I would say, process, that gave me more appreciation and really understand the value of craft and heritage and cultural expression and through creativity through Milan. So I don't know. I think like I made it longer than your question, but I think that is like why I...
No, that was going to take me actually to the next question, which was about Milan specifically. I was in Florence last year for the Art for Tomorrow, and we visited Brunello Cucinello's place, and we also visited a lot of design and fashion spaces in Florence. And I realized that actually Florence is the largest city of making things, but Milan is the largest city, if not only in Italy, but one in the world for distribution. So I wanted to ask you actually, what was the experience like living in Milan, studying at the Marangoni Institute, studying, I guess, fashion. Is that what you studied, fashion?
Fashion design, yeah. I was specialized in menswear, though. That was my second year.
What was the experience of living in Milan like? For a lot, we've seen in the last, let's say, the last 2 decades or more, a big interest in fashion design, not just in Qatar, but also the Arab world. As you know, we have the Fashion Trust Arabia, which every year grows and is becoming more and more effective in supporting fashion designers from the Arab world. What did that experience bring to you as a fashion designer? And for those listening in today, what would you recommend for those who want to do fashion? Would you recommend, for example, living in a place like Milan and studying fashion?
To be actual production floor, like to meet those artisans, craftsmanships, and be part of the making of those, like not even like the making of the garment. It's more about the making of the actual fabrics or the patterns and stuff like that, because the more you put your hands on it, the more you really understand the value and the importance of certain tactics or pattern structures, or why this have been done this way or that way. There's some historical value and there's some functionality value. So historical value is more about the textures of the fabrics or the way how they constructed the garment, and then the historical part. And then the second one is more about functionality. Like there's some dresses or some clothes function a certain way because of how this person lived. Are they outdoor or indoor? Or is it they going to wear it for gala dinner? Or is it like at home sitting on a couch and stuff like that? So the more actually you are part of the making process, that will help you to, when you become a designer or you open a fashion house, you will really understand how you can study and analyze your consumer, how they live, what excites them, what make them celebrate life or do things. And then you can really translate those and bring it to your studio and kind of create the silhouette that actually make them even celebrate more.
In 2014, you launched your own fashion brand, specializing in casual menswear.
Yeah.
How would you characterize your design and the whole journey of launching? I mean, I think you're probably one of the first, if not the first, Qatari fashion brand specialized in men. So how was that experience and how do you characterize your design?
So basically, it was really exciting because Qatar is a bit like endorsing. It's like Qatar has this, energy that anyone try and work hard, you have a place to celebrate. You have a place to be showcased and be connected with your consumer directly. I think because of that echo or that system, regardless if the system back then wasn't established in terms of the making for the designers, but the consumer were open to it. And especially because I think I was men, designing from men, and this region was a bit like a unique perspective. And I think it was easier as well because I'm a man as well, so I can understand what men want and stuff like that, and whether they're gonna wear it and stuff. We had, I think back then we have a Salam stores, and I think we were limited, I think 3 or 4 luxury department store or retail stores, and it was easier for me to go there every day, take my notebook and see what kind of brands people purchase and why they chose that shirt, not this t-shirt or something like that. So I was capturing and collecting data through the consumer behavior, how they behave in terms of purchasing. And then I started really putting my collection because I felt I'm between formal and informal. I like that space in between. I don't want to wear a shirt, but I would like to wear a Cuban shirt, because there's some rebellion in it somehow. So this is where I felt I wanted to be specialized in this Cuban shirt patterns, where I was taking photos of the architectural language of Qatar, and then especially National Museum. I was really inspired by the patterns, this iconic building, and I take the illustration of it and then I print it in the fabric. And that was kind of the creative process in terms of using inspiration from within and then try to create a product that actually our consumer can relate to, or the story even. So it was really interesting. It was really, I would say, easy for me. I wish I have interesting story to say, it was challenging and stuff like that, the stories you hear around. But I think because of the population was small and I was the only men designer back then, it was easier for me to enter an industry because it was something new. It was something fashionable. Who's this Fahad? What he's trying to do? And then it was easier to sell. And I think my personality served my brand as well. in order like to connect with people. And like I'm always in the floor, like I'm always like in events or connecting with people or going to so many majlises and stuff like that. So my networking or PR, I would say, skills help me to connect with the consumer easier and then sell the story to them.
I think you also had a very early mentor as your mother.
Yeah.
So you must have learned a lot of these skills very young. And I think, I've seen a lot of men today like Cuban shirts, and it's actually quite fascinating from a Qatar's perspective because Qatar and Cuba share a very unique relationship. We also have a Cuban hospital in Qatar, which is actually quite good.
Yeah.
But let's go back now to your brand and the designing and promoting of your own work. You have been involved in promoting fashion in Qatar in general through your involvement with the Fashioning the City conference and the Hayya Arabian Fashion Exhibition. In your view, where is the fashion industry in Qatar at? And how have you personally experienced this evolution or revolution, if you like, during this time as a practitioner?
I think that started 2015, if I'm not mistaken, Fashioning the City conference. Because again, like when I launched the collection and I saw like the reaction from the consumers, I felt like I needed to build that community, the fashion community. And I felt like I can do it through events. I can grow it through those educational tools, such as like conferences, forums, and talks. Because I feel like it will start intellectual conversation, like how fashion built your identity, how you can really celebrate yourself as an individual and then as a society. So I wanted the Fashioning the City conference or like a panel discussion to really connect me with the fashion industry. Like I invited Cubic, their CEO, Aisha Al back then to talk about the entrepreneurial part. And I brought Sandra, she was the chair of fashion, to talk about the making aspect from an educational. And then I brought in a designer to sit in that panel discussion as well and talk about her experience as well. So for me, I was using those platforms like Fashioning the City or Here Fashion Exhibition is just for me to connect with the fashion figures or the fashion lovers and then create that community. Because again, like in order to do something or like create something, you need to create that community that lifts you up and at the same time create appetite for consumers to buy your product, connect with you in a level that you're not expected. So I think creating those two platforms inspires me to really understand the fashion ecosystem in Qatar, which served me today in my career, connecting to designers, stuff like that. And the fashion industry always been there, to be honest. Like the way I used to look at it, I was like thinking about like Here Fashion Exhibition or the other events, like the evolution of the fashion industry. But looking back, doing more research about the first fabric store in Qatar or the first atelier was all the way till 1961. So it took me even further. And then I started working with National Museum and then I was discovered this amazing collection about textile and fashion, stuff like that, even took me further. So I think the fashion industry in Qatar always been there. It just like it went through different stages in terms of like building its character, in terms of like national identity to be a part of the global, I would say, landscape. With Fashion Trust Arabia as well, like thank you so much for creating that platform because literally today we see how Arab or like the Middle East designers, they are celebrated in a way that will encourage them to first communicate about their values and their voices and stuff like that. And at the same time, really compete in the global market. Like we see a lot of designers graduate or the winners, I would say, from Fashion Trust Arabia competing in Europe, competing in the States, competing everywhere, to be honest. So that is actually refreshing to see that from being here in Qatar and like among each other as a family till like we are becoming a global voice to be part of the global conversation about what fashion and how we can use fashion to make our life better.
And around the same time as you launched your own fashion brand, I think it was around 2014, you went back to school and enrolled in filmmaking courses at the Doha Film Institute. I feel like you're a lifelong learner, Fahad. You ended up screening your documentary Inside Out at the Cannes Film Festival in 2016. What inspired you to move to film? And when you were just launching your fashion brand, I mean, what pulled you in that direction?
I would think like me attending the documentary lab with DFI, it was a strategic move because I was looking at my brand and I noticed there's two areas that are missing. The storytelling ability, like how I can tell the story, the narrative, the brand. And I thought the film industry is the best educators for me that I can learn from them, how I can tell the story about my brand and stuff like that, the story of me as well. And that's why, to be honest, like it was funny, like I was thinking about that and when we were doing the business plan of my brand, and then like an ad popped on Facebook about this lab and by DFI, and immediately signed up. And it was like my favorite experience till today, because I'm not a filmmaker. I consume films, like I watch films, but I don't make films. And DFI had this space that actually forced people to come and experiment through their workshops and master classes that really enrich and educate us the value of films, and then as well like how to make films. So that's why I signed up to the documentary lab. And it was like around, I don't remember, 13 filmmakers, real filmmakers that they choose. So I felt like I was like out of place. I felt like I don't belong there. But within the same week, like I was endorsed by everyone and even our mentors. When I was a bit vulnerable, when I showed my insecurity about why I'm here and stuff like that, and I told them like, look, that was my intention to understand how I can build a narrative, how I can tell a story and bring it to my brand. But actually, like I would like to continue in this class. And then it took us 6 weeks, the program. And we developed the short documentary with DFI help. And the end of the class, you have the jury to select which movie or which film or script will go to production. And I promise you, I sat there and it was like, I didn't have even like, I was like, not even 1% they will choose me, because I have among me an amazing filmmakers here in Qatar that they're going to choose them. But I think like, I was a bit vulnerable and I was telling a story, personal story. That's why it was selected. And then it was just an amazing experience to take me through the production, to understand script writing and how to film this or how to use this equipment or how to do scouting for location, set design, all those things. It was really like a beautiful cocktail of knowledge under one program that first I valued films. I was like, oh my God, this is the amount of work you have to do just for a short movie, how bit feature movie. And then we finalized the film, and then it was screened during Ajiyal. And after that, I got a call from DFI by Fatma Armehi. It was my favorite call ever. She was telling me, your film will go to Cannes. And I was like, Cannes where? She was like, La Cannes Festival. And I was like, it was just a dream, like to have that tag, and my t-shirt says Fahad Al Obaidly, director. It was just an honor to represent DFI and really give them back the investment they put in us and like the trust and stuff like that. So it's again, like it's my favorite experience. And
what was your film about, Inside Out?
Oh, okay. It was immature because now I cannot even look at it because I'm not that person anymore.
Well, 10 years old? No.
Yeah.
8 years old. So you need to make a new film maybe.
Yeah. I think, okay, so it was about myself trying to find my place within my own place. I always felt like I'm an alien, or the way I express myself and my creativity and stuff like that. And I didn't feel like I belong anywhere. So it's almost like I was searching through this short documentary. Basically, I was trying to explain how I felt as an individual, like about being lost, about where I belong and who am I and my identity. And this because of like the way I grew up. Like my great-grandmother, she's Iraqi from Basra. And my mom, Kuwaiti, Qatari, and my dad, Qatari, and his grandfather, Iranian. He came to Qatar in 1956. So I have this like multicultural, I would say, identity that I was trying to pick which one I belong to. And then through making the documentary, I really realized that actually I'm part of all. It was almost like a therapy session that I didn't have to pay for. And this is how I kind of integrated this to the documentary. I literally, when I was watching the documentary and big screen, and I really realized that I'm part of all. I'm part of that, and I don't have to pick one expression.
No, I agree. And I think arts and culture and all of its forms enables people to, find a creative outlet to reflect who they are, or find new ways or different ways to communicate with a larger audience. And I agree. I think the diversity in your identity, I think, allows for also a lot of creativity that we've seen. Your contribution has been significant in different sectors. You were also part of the Artisan Residency at the fire station. I remember you were, I think, one of the first people in the residency. And I remember, you had so many different ideas, and you're really an entrepreneur. When we had a conversation visiting your studio, how was your experience overall, and what would you recommend for aspiring artists?
It was, again, like, if you remember, like it was the two areas I wanted to develop, like the storytelling. So that's why I went to DFI, and then this artistic expression. I felt I was lacking that. And I felt like in order to serve my brand, I need to enrich and develop that. And that's the reason why I joined the fire station. And it was my first experience to be among another 18 artists in one building. And the interaction between each other, and they kind of adopted me, I would say, from day one. I really felt it. Mariam Suwaidi, Lulu, and the rest. Like, again, like, I think my vulnerability connect people, because I told them about, like, I don't consider myself an artist, but I would like to enter, I would like to express it, I need to develop it and stuff like that. And they adopted me. Like, even I do remember one time, Mariam, she used to come like weekly to teach me how to paint, how to use the brushes, how to clean the brushes, what the different mediums and stuff like that. And our curators as well back then, the mentors as well, like the artistic expression, what that mean, and how you can be abstract and how you can be direct sometimes. So it was really interesting 9-month residency that it helped me a lot as well, like to build my character in terms of the way I conduct myself as a person, and at the same time, how I express it as well, but from an artistic point of view. And I think when you came to my studio, you saw like you had my fashion there, and I have my paintings, and I have sculpture, and I have a lot of things because I was experimenting. I was just like, I think the fire station sparked my curiosity. Like, my curiosity was in a 100% volume. So I was just curious about everything. It's almost like a kid with a candy store. So I wanted to experiment with everything. I wanted to touch this. I wanted to create this. And because I was trying to identify the artistic character, Fahad. That's why I brought my fashion there. I brought my film there. I brought my photography skills as well with me. My grandmother actually told me one time, like, whenever you go anywhere for an initiative or a project, whatever, bring your skills and your ancestors. Like, bring them with you. Like, every person was kind to you. Bring them with you to your space, because that's the army of positive vibes and vibration will make you succeed, or like at least like will lead you to the right path. So that is like, I think what I brought to the studio is like this vibration of different expressions and the system there, like working with curators. And as well, I remember one of the annual event, I'm not quite sure if it was called Qatar Create. The large event happened here in Qatar with the museum openings. I think National Museum opening, I think. They brought a lot of artists, global artists, to our studios to visit our work and critique our work and give us advice and insights about like how they started their career and stuff like that. So that was a crazy, like Jeff Koons, one of them, like to be in the studio in Qatar, and then you have Jeff Koons coming to your studio and like looking at your work and give you critique and stuff like that. That is like, you cannot pay that. Till today, I really appreciate that moments. Like, I'm like, who could imagine that those stars, those legends, artists that come to Qatar and exposed to our artworks and have access to us, get to know us, and they're interested in us as well, like Damian Hirst and the rest. So I think the experience of Fire Station kind of built my curiosity and confidence as well. I think that the two things like I took out from that residency, and I always wanted to go back. I always wanted to do another residency, and because of that experience, of like constant development and learning.
Well, I agree that you always bring very positive vibes and energy to our meetings, which have been recently a lot on the Design Doha Biennale, which we're launching very soon. So let's talk about that, because I think that's, to me, one of the most exciting new platforms we're adding to everything else that we have done over the decades as a nation. And you're the Deputy Director of Programming and Partnership. And I always find the presentations and updates on Design Doha comprehensive and innovative. What are you most looking forward to sharing with the larger audiences, not just in Qatar, but the Arab world? Because technically speaking, everything we've done in terms of arts and culture has been for Qatar and local audiences, but also the region.
First, thank you so much. I think we have a great team, to be honest, like in Design Doha, that really love the project and committed and inspired by the talent we meet every day. Like we met so far over 200 designers via Zoom and or person to get to know their stories, their craft, and how we can celebrate them here in Qatar. So that's actually the motivator for our team to keep going and really focus about the goal, the larger goal and the impact we have through Design Doha. Basically, my role in Design Doha is to design programs that correspond or mirror to the need or the gaps, what's missing here. And we did research around the region, what like other biennales or design weeks and stuff like that. And we felt there's one thing is missing, which is like cementing the Arab or the Middle East craftsmanship and artisanship, and like kind of like act locally and reach globally. That was kind of like our motive, like how we can think about bringing those voices and really creating platforms to cement the value of the Arabian craftsmanship or the Middle East craftsmanship, and then give them a platform, a global platform. Qatar always acted as a global platform for every unique topic as a mediator, I would say, from the beginning. So that's why we wanted to follow that vision. We wanted to follow that ethos, or like I would say, core value, by creating Design Doha as a platform from a programming point of view, where we have Design Doha Prize, which we're celebrating and awarding 4 Arab designers, practicing excellent design and eco-friendly approach to production and have really unique narrative in their story, as well like Design Doha Forum to elevate the communication and conversation about how we can use design to make our cities, our spaces and homes better for everyone, for us and for the environment. And as well, we have the coaching sessions where actually we bring business experts in the design industry to give shortcuts and insight about how the young designers and students can navigate through the design industry from a global perspective. As well, like the big exhibitions, we have over 8 exhibitions so far. And the number of exhibitions grow every day, even though I'm telling the team, let's stop accepting any applications because we are 3 weeks away from starting and celebrating Design Doha. So we have the Arab Design Now, where we are featuring 74 designers from the MENA region, over 122 objects or creation or project that will be part of our show, curated by the amazing Rana Beiruti, the Amman Design Week director. As well, we have, as you know, like our artistic director, Glenn Adamson, with his design aesthetics and instructions that we follow throughout the whole Biennale. So I think in terms of like our impact, or what I want the audience to see, I want them to really realize that the Arabian or the MENA region design have a place in the global market, or have a unique perspective in terms of like design aesthetics, the quality of work, and the strong storytelling through the Middle East, which is craftsmanship and artisanship. So this is, like, to be honest, like, again, because it's the first edition, so it's the first time people will be exposed to like under one umbrella and that level. And I'm confident it will have kind of like an organic response to the market, the hospitality sector, the real estate sector, to really commission the designers. That is actually what we're doing. We are having the showcase element, and then we have the B2B, where we have special meetings with between designers and users, such as Qatar, hospitality, Ashghal, ministry, municipality, even like private sectors like Al Fardan Group or Al Asmakh Group and the rest. So we want them to build this bridge or get them closer to the Arab designers or the MENA region designers, to start commissioning them, because in this way we can really say, when I go to, let's say right now, when you go to the NAD, you can immediately point Mubarak Al-Thani work in the wall, and it's such a like celebratory feeling that we reach that level. Luxury, big brands, names that commission and inquire Qatari designers or Arab artists through our hotels. So I think that is like what we wanted to do, because I think the fire station succeed in creating the artistic, I would say, ecosystem. So now the industry is ready to commission, it's ready to inquire, it's ready to work with the designers or the artists in the MENA region, or especially here in Qatar, for their large project. We have contact every day by hotels, stuff like that, inquiring Qatari artists and Qatari painters. So because I was exposed to that, working with Qatar museums, that's why I feel like we're going to do the same thing for designers. That's kind of like the ultimate goal.
No, it's really, you're right. It's really a great moment, and a lot of opportunities now for talent to be connected to industry. You talked about the NED. It's a great example of how a hotel managed by Soho House were so open to the Arab creatives that we suggested to them, and that a lot of hotels in Qatar and abroad are, taking that approach, because you're right. Talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And I'm happy to see that Qatar, with its leadership and vision, is enabling opportunity for talent in all areas to support their growth economically and link it with industry. You personally, as an artist working in this Design Doha, you've been closely involved in the planning of the Biennale for a very long time. This is a project we've been working for at least 6 years. And many of these designers involved don't have galleries. We've we looked for them, we found them, we commissioned them, and we produced their work. And now it's here, coming to Doha in end of February, lasting for a few months. Do you think this experience has impacted your own work or thinking in any way? Like, do you look at things differently? Do you think about process and use of material? Do you consider sustainability? What did that add to you working on this project?
I think, like, looking at my professional background and where I came today, like, I started working for Qatar Museum 2014 as a researcher in National Museum. And that's why, like, anyone talk to me about Qatar Museum, like, do it. Don't even consider, like, just do it. Join Qatar Museum, either as like a client or as an employee. Because Qatar Museum have this ecosystem inside the organization that allow people to grow, to develop, because we are working in a large scale project. And that is actually the role of creativity. Like, our role as a creative is like to take challenging project and make it, at least, like, I would not even say to make them happen even, like, but more about like to start realizing and to see what possible and stuff like that. And I think working in like National Museum and then developing, or like not really developing because the cultural pass was there before I joined even, like developing the programs for the cultural pass and understanding the audience. I was starting looking at my plots, like in each project and my contribution. And it's always been about community building and programming, cultural program for them. Like, because I wasn't this, like in the floor again, like I always been in the floor, like back then when I was like trying to teach myself till today, like in the tours, I'm there in terms of like looking at the audience, what they want. I'm there to really understand them and get to know them and get to cater and design a program that they will respond to. It's something they are, it will excite them. So I think coming from there and then developing M7 was like the biggest, I would say, lesson for me, because it was just a big real estate building, 29,000 square meter space. And I remember the day we walked into this building empty, and the vision for it, to become the creative entrepreneurship hub where ideas come to reality. And I was like, we made it. This is the home of creatives. This is the home where ideas can be entered to this incubation where business and creativity can meet. So I learned a lot in terms of like putting this project together, business plan, meeting investors to invest back in this mission. And I always say in my interviews, I would say in the news, like if there is one success story, like I have one success story, it's the belief system we created with M7 between the designers and craft and creatives with the industry investors. That was like, I think the biggest success we did back then in 2017 and 18. So I think I took all those knowledge, I took all those experiences, and I applied it now to Design Doha. And I have more understanding in terms of like the business aspect, the strategy, and then the creative. And I'm trying to have different hats every time I enter a meeting or having discussion about a program or a challenge we're facing for Design Doha. So I think, like I want to give credit to QM, to be honest, because I learned everything because I was exposed to those kind of projects, larger scale projects that I would never even dream to be part of. Building the iconic museum of National Museum by John Lovell and celebrating our heritage through this building, and then creating the cultural pass where we have so far, I think, before it turned to one pass, we had 39,000 members that like hungry for the cultural offerings of Qatar. And then to M7 to build this creative incubation for everyone to feel safe, to feel valid, to feel there is a hope. And then now Design Doha to really even scale it up to MENA region. But I think Qatar always been MENA region approach in terms of like creating ecosystem and incubation and support system. But like through Design Doha, I think that the longer vision for us, like I keep telling the team, like whatever we're doing right now is the testing. We need to really pay attention to what the designers want and how the industry is reacting. Because our success story after the Biennale, it's having full understanding how we can even develop it for the next year, for the next edition, in a way that actually we scale it up and we can even have a meaningful project that really correspond to the industry, but at the same time celebrating the MENA region creative expression.
I like that. Ideas come to reality. That's exactly what we do. And it's really, I think, elevating innovation across sectors in society. And we see so many collaborators, even in the government sectors where you don't expect it. They're coming, reaching out and connecting to the creative hubs or the Qatar museums and doing a lot of initiatives collectively. Fahad, you talk about, giving credit to Qatar museums for opening your eyes and giving you new experiences. Do you make it part of your schedule or daily routine to spend time in the museums, to see our permanent collection and exhibitions? And do you think by having those opportunities now in Qatar, because not long ago we didn't have all these exhibitions and museums, do you think it has allowed you to think about visiting museums when you travel abroad differently? Like every time you travel, you'll make it a key agenda on your travel plan to visit an exhibition or to visit museums. How has that developed your eye as an artist? And do you actually spend time in the museums and looking at exhibitions?
Definitely. Like we have one of the most iconic buildings and museums and collection. Like that's the beauty of like the landscape here. Not only going to see the building, is to see the collection. And even like what I love about our museums, it's more like lifestyle space as well. You can go for having like really unique restaurants and food, or you can go to this amazing gift shops. Whenever I have guests, I go there for sure. Like that's the first things I do when I have a guest. I take them to like the first, I would say 3 days. It's all to our museums. And I go there often with a group of my friends. We do we call it the jogging, but it's actually fast walking. And we go there inside the National Museum and then we pick one item. But while we're walking, we have to take one photo of an item we liked. But then the second round, we stop again, and then every person needs to explain why they chose that artwork. And that is like actually like it become more like a weekend, like something we can do in the weekend to have fun and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. I love going to our museums. Like we have all the time new exhibitions as well, and the temporary exhibitions. So it's always like there's new content. There's always new things to do there.
I like to hear that you go to museums every weekend. This is basically investing in our future generations by encouraging them to spend a day of the week, let's say, to visit something culturally, whether it's film, exhibition, arts and traditional crafts. There's so many other organizations in Qatar today that offer so much, so many great festivals like Qatar. They have some of the greatest festivals. They run on tradition and culture and also transforming it to contemporary life. So, and music is another one that we have a lot to offer to the audiences that are in Qatar or visiting Qatar. So, you spoke a lot about your own experiences. I feel like you've lived 100 lives almost because you've done so much, and you're very motivated, I think, to do more. The way you approach things is always very creative. What do you think Qatar's investment in the arts does to its legacy, and what are the benefits of that from a consumer point of view? Because you're an artist who's benefiting from all these things. Like, what do you think the legacy is for a country?
This is a really deep question. Okay, I think the legacy of investing in art is I would say like for evolution, like for like really pushing our society and the Qatari community further. I'm going to go back to the fire station example. Like when the fire station was established, we had only 2 supply shops for art and 1 gallery that was actually like catered to global international artists as well. But because of the fire station producing those talents every year, 18, the ecosystem starts responding. More galleries opening, more that actually using like real estate, I would say, renting spaces and stuff like that. And then you see more like supply shops start opening because they need to respond to the demand, the growth of number of artists here in Qatar since then. And plus, like you see hotels, ambassadors and embassies, they start like inquiring from local designers. And you see like restaurant doing this unique events every month to celebrate an installation or a painting, stuff like that. So it is benefiting the ecosystem completely, because if you think about it, it's not only the artistic industry or the creative cluster, it's more about like the real estate, the hospitality sector, or the food and beverage. All of them, it's connected. It's like we are the connectors. That's why like I always say, thank God we have artists, because artists, they are the innovators. They are the one they take us further. They are the one they connect us and stuff like that. So I would say the legacy, it's really growing Qatar from an economical point of view and really appreciating what art has to offer for the subcategory of the clusters as well. I know sometimes it's vague too, like you cannot measure it or you cannot touch it, but you can really see it in our daily life, how we live, how we connect to each other, how we spend our weekends, and where we're going and stuff like that. So again, like going back to your questions about the museum, what I do, this is something, it's a cultural revolution. Like it's about like really expanding our thoughts and imagination as a nation. And that's the only way you can move forward.
And from your point of view, if you looked back into the journey that you've taken, the creative journey, do you think it would have evolved differently had there been little infrastructure in Qatar as you grew up?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I always go back to 2012 when I was working for HSBC Bank. I was a banker. Shocking. It was a lot of money. It was good money, but it served nothing for my soul or my thoughts or my brain or anything else. So I always imagine if I stayed, I always go back to that day where I resigned from being with this bank. And there's nothing wrong with the bank. It's just like I didn't feel I was contributing from a human point of view or like from a society or a community point of view. So that's why I always be grateful, because I was on YouTube and I watched the TED Talk where you were in, and you were talking passionately about culture and art. And I swear to God, till today, I keep telling my mom, I told my mom, I will be working for this organization. I will be working there. I knew it. This is the place I will grow and I will have an impact. And it was a really funny journey where I left the bank and I applied to Qatar Museums, but I never get a response back then. And I started working for VCU in the Creative Entrepreneurship Department. And then they heard about my Sheikha Amna, I do believe, National Museum. She heard about my project to digitize textile. And then she said, we're building the National Museum of Qatar if you're interested. And then that was my calling. It was literally in the library of VCU. I remember it was Karen and Sheikha Amna were sitting, and then they were impressed with our project and they were like, can we develop the project with us? And because I'm Qatari, I had to work with them full time, not as a consultant. Back then, we didn't have a system, I think. So I had to leave VCU for National Museum. But it always take me back to 2012 when I was in a bank, bored, watching YouTube, watching this TED Talk, getting inspired. And I think I manifested QM in a way. So yeah, I always go back to that.
The TED Talk was 2010, so that's 14 years ago that you shifted. But I think the bank experience, although you might have found it boring, probably added a lot of value to the skills you bring to our organization. I mean, we always like to hire former bankers because the culture is actually the vehicle for the economic amplification or multiplier in society, with the creative economy being about 10% of world GDP. I never knew you were at a bank before, actually, so this is a discovery for me. But now a lot of things make sense of why you're very entrepreneurial in your approach. Yeah. So for those listening in, it's never a bad idea to get an experience at a bank if you want to enter the sector, because actually the culture and the creativity is really a very strong vehicle for economic impact. So this is my last question for you today. Thank you for this conversation and journey of the Design Doha, but also your personal journey as an artist living in Qatar. And given all the diverse fields that you've worked in so far, what do you think your next adventure will be?
To be honest, again, I fell in love with Design Doha and I have a full force. I felt like I found my calling in a way. So that's why I don't see anything beyond that. I see myself as contributor to the Design Doha movement, because it is a movement for me. It is like a movement of cultural identity. It's a movement of validation and unity to cement again our ideas and our thoughts and as a MENA regional Arab. So I think my next is basically to give more thoughts and strategic planning for the next editions, like 2026 and 2028, inshallah. We already started actually planning this 2 edition, as a location, what we're going to do and how we can largen the scale of Design Doha. So I think it's more about continue the mission and investing more in meeting designers and really giving opportunities through the platform we have in Qatar Museums.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think also the next edition will fall into place in 2026 when we have Rubaiya, the launch of our quadrennial. So I think it'll be a really exciting year.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, actually. Design Doha to me is one of the most innovative platforms and an opportunity for many designers to also enter the industry. And just because we're opening very, very soon doesn't mean we've reached the end. Actually, this is just the beginning. So Fahad, thank you very much. I look forward to continue working with you on the Design Doha and sharing all the talent we have in the Arab world to the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.